Real power isn't about shouting. It's about being the mountain that the wind can't move. Machiavelli taught that it is better to be feared than loved if you cannot be both, and fear often comes from a terrifying, icy silence. In the streets and the boardroom alike, the person who speaks first is often the one who is most afraid. They are rushing to fill the void because the silence eats at them. When you walk into a space where tension is thick enough to cut, your first objective is to occupy the vacuum. Most people think owning the room means taking up physical space or talking over others, but the true Machiavellian knows that the most dominant force in any environment is the one who remains unreadable. Consider a situation where a co-worker or a rival corners you in a common area, red-faced and waving a report, blaming you loudly for a missed deadline or a shared failure. Their goal is to pull you into their chaos. They want you to stutter, to explain, to offer excuses, because the moment you explain, you have subconsciously accepted them as your judge. You have placed yourself beneath them. Do not jump to defend yourself. That's what a servant does. Instead, look them dead in the eye and say absolutely nothing for a full 5 seconds. It will feel like an eternity. You will see them start to fidget, their eyes will dart, and their breathing will become shallow. By refusing to play the defense game, you have effectively stripped them of their script. They came for a fight. You gave them a mirror. Machiavelli's teachings on the prince suggest that appearances are everything. If you appear shaken, you are weak. If you appear angry, you are predictable. But if you appear indifferent, you are dangerous. This silence acts as a psychological weight. Let their own anger hang in the air until they feel foolish, like a child screaming at a statue. The master key here is to realize that by staying still, you are the one in control of the clock, not them. You are forcing them to burn through their adrenaline while you conserve yours. Think about the physical mechanics of this dominance. When they approach you with high energy, lower yours. If they are standing, do not jump up to meet them unless you are moving to close the distance and loom. Keep your hands visible, but still. Fidgeting is a leak in your armor that tells the world you are nervous. If they demand an answer, wait another 2 seconds after they finish speaking before you respond. This beat in the conversation signals that you are processing their words on your own terms, not reacting to their stimulus. You are the filter through which the reality of the room must pass. The ultimate maneuver is to treat their outburst as an interesting, yet slightly pathetic, performance. By the time you finally speak, your voice should be a low, steady monotone. When you take the noise out of a confrontation, you take the power out of the person making it. You aren't just staying calm for your own sake. You are weaponizing your composure to make them realize that their authority over you is a hallucination. You don't need to win the argument if you've already won the room by being the only person in it who hasn't lost their mind. When someone tries to provoke you, they are handing you a piece of burning coal. If you catch it, you get burned. If you leave it on the floor, they're the one left holding the heat. Machiavelli knew that the most dangerous men aren't the ones who react to every slight, but the ones who observe them and file them away for later use. Most people are slaves to their own pride. If someone calls them a name or questions their competence, they feel an immediate primal urge to strike back, to defend their honor. But in the street-level game of power, honor is a luxury for the dead. Power belongs to the person who cannot be baited. Think of a real-world situation where a rival tries to embarrass you in front of the boss or a group of peers by calling your ideas naive or short-sighted. In that moment, the entire room is looking at you to see if the wound draws blood. If you get defensive, if your voice goes up an octave, or if you start explaining why you're actually smart, you've already lost. You've accepted the gift of their insult. You've let them define the reality of the moment. Instead, you must use the prince's mirror technique. Acknowledge their words with a slight, bored nod, the kind you'd give a buzzing fly, and pivot immediately back to the cold, hard facts of the matter. The Machiavellian secret is to realize that an insult is almost always a sign of weakness in the attacker. People only reach for insults when they have run out of logic, or when they are terrified that you are gaining the upper hand. By staying calm, you highlight their desperation. Your way out is to treat their insult as a minor technical glitch or a strange, irrelevant noise rather than a personal attack. Imagine looking at them with a hint of genuine pity, as if they've just tripped over their own shoelaces in public. This shift in perspective is your armor. When you don't react, the insult doesn't land on you. It bounces back and stains the person who threw it. The crowd, whether it's your friends, your family, or your co-workers, will always subconsciously align with the person who remains unshakable. If you stay cool while the other person gets nasty, the attacker starts to look unhinged, emotional, and low status. You, meanwhile, look like the only adult in the room, a person of such high value that the opinions of lesser critics don't even register on your radar. You are not taking the high road out of kindness. You are taking it because it's the most strategically dominant position on the map. Machiavelli taught that a prince must be a great pretender and dissembler. Even if the insult stings, your face must show nothing but mild curiosity. If they call you a coward for not fighting, or arrogant for not listening, simply lean back and say, "That's an interesting take. Now, back to the numbers." This dismissive attitude is a psychological blade. It tells the attacker that their most powerful weapon has no effect on you. Once they realize they can't control your emotions, they realize they can't control you at all. You become a ghost in their machine, something they can't grasp, can't hurt, and ultimately can't stop. The clever bypass here is to treat the confrontation like a transaction where the currency is invalid. If someone tries to pay you in insults, you simply don't accept the payment. You stand there, empty-handed and unbothered, while they stand there, looking like a fool, holding a bag of hot coal that no one wants to buy. By the time they realize the trap they've set for themselves, you've already moved the conversation to a place where you hold all the cards. You need to be a fox to recognize the traps and a lion to frighten the wolves. In any confrontation, your face is your shield, and your composure is your armor. Machiavelli understood that the masses are always taken by appearances and by the outcome of an event. If you look defeated, you are defeated. If you look rattled, you have already handed your opponent the keys to your kingdom. Your physical presence is the front line of the war, and the mask is how you hold that line. Whether you are dealing with a screaming boss, a hostile neighbor, or a manipulator trying to gaslight you, the biology of the confrontation is the same. They are looking for a crack in your facade to exploit. Imagine a situation where a landlord or a predatory debt collector is trying to bully you into an unfair agreement using legal threats they haven't actually researched or aggressive posturing to make you sign a paper right then and there. Their strategy relies entirely on your nervous system failing you. They want your hands to shake, your eyes to dart, and your voice to crack. If you flinch, they win, not because they have the law on their side, but because they have psychological momentum. The fox in you must recognize this as a bluff, a trap designed to make you settle out of fear. The lion in you must respond not with a roar, but with a terrifying predator-like stillness. The remedy for this high-pressure assault is to decouple your internal feelings from your external display. Your heart might be hammering against your ribs like a trapped bird. That's just adrenaline, a primitive survival mechanism. But your face must remain a mask of cold stone. Breathe low and deep into your belly. Chest breathing makes your voice thin and panicked. When you speak, speak slower than usual. Force the aggressor to wait for your words. By slowing down the tempo, you are forcing them to step out of their frantic rhythm and into yours. You are effectively dragging the fight into deep water where you know how to swim, and they don't. When you refuse to show emotion, the bully loses their map. Most aggressors have a mental flowchart. If I yell, they will cower. If I threaten, they will negotiate. When you provide a blank, unreadable stare, you break their internal logic. They begin to wonder what you know that they don't. Are you recording them? Do you have a counter move they haven't seen? Are you simply more powerful than they estimated? This uncertainty is where the fox thrives. While they are tripping over their own escalating aggression, trying to find a reaction that isn't coming, you are calmly observing their movements, looking for the opening where their anger makes them sloppy. Consider the street-level reality of a heated argument in a parking lot or a bar. The moment you square up and start shouting back, you've descended to their level, and in that mud pit, the loudest pig usually wins. But if you stand your ground with the relaxed posture of a lion, shoulders down, chin level, eyes fixed on the bridge of their nose, you project a level of quiet danger that is far more intimidating than noise. The fix for any intimidation attempt is to become a black hole for their energy. Let them scream, let them wave their arms, and let them exhaust their ammo. When they finally run out of breath and realize they haven't moved you an inch, the power dynamic shifts instantly. They become the exhausted prey, and you remain the fresh, calculated predator. This mask isn't about being nice or peaceful. It's a tactical deception. You are hiding your intent and your vulnerability behind a wall of indifference. By the time they realize you aren't intimidated, you've already mapped out their weaknesses and decided exactly how you're going to neutralize the threat. You don't need to roar to prove you're a lion. You just need to act like the one thing in the room that isn't afraid of the noise. Confrontation is usually a storm of messy feelings, a chaotic flood designed to drown your reason. Your job is to cut through the fog like a cold blade. Machiavelli knew that a disorganized enemy is a defeated one, and nothing is more disorganized than a person blinded by rage. When someone attacks you, they rarely lead with a single coherent point. Instead, they throw a kitchen sink of grievances at you, past mistakes, personal insults, and exaggerated claims, all bundled into one loud explosion. They do this because they can't win on the facts, so they try to win on the volume. If you try to defend yourself against every accusation at once, you are fighting on a dozen fronts, and you will eventually bleed out. Think of a common high-stakes situation. A partner or a family member brings up a list of everything you've ever done wrong during a heated argument about something small, like a late dinner or a forgotten chore. They start with the chore, but within 30 seconds, they're bringing up a mistake you made 3 years ago and questioning your entire character. Most people fall into the trap of answering every single point, getting more frustrated and defensive with every sentence. That is exactly what the aggressor wants. They want you spinning in circles. The antidote to this multi-front attack is to refuse the bait. Do not chase them down every rabbit hole they dig. Instead, you must apply the Machiavellian principle of divide and rule. While they are venting their cloud of anger, you are listening for the one weakest, most illogical thing they said. Ignore the insults. Ignore the ancient history. Find the one statement that is factually wrong or easily dismantled and isolate it. Interrupt the flow with a calm, surgical precision. Say, "Hold on. You just said I never showed up for that event in June. I have the photos from that day right here. Since that part of your argument is clearly false, why should I believe the rest of this is any more accurate?" By focusing on one thread, you pull the entire sweater apart. When you isolate a single point, you shift the battleground from their emotions to your logic. You are no longer fighting. You are auditing. This is a devastating psychological shift. The aggressor, who was riding a wave of self-righteous adrenaline, suddenly finds themselves forced to defend a specific detail. The momentum stops dead. The bypass for a chaotic confrontation is to pick the smallest fight you can win it decisively, and then use that victory to discredit their entire emotional outburst. Once you break one link in their chain of anger, the whole thing falls apart because they can no longer maintain the big picture of their rage. In a professional setting, this looks like a client or a boss dumping a pile of vague complaints on your desk. "This project is a mess, the team is lazy, and the quality is down." If you apologize for the mess, you've lost. Instead, divide the attack. Ask, which specific metric for quality are we looking at right now? When they can't give you a straight answer, their mess starts to look like what it actually is, a temporary emotional lapse. You are the one holding the scalpel, and they are the one on the table. By the time the dust settles, you haven't just won the argument. You've trained them that attacking you with vague emotions is a waste of their time. You aren't playing their game. You are dismantling the board they're playing on. A cornered animal bites the hardest. If you're winning a confrontation, if you've caught a shady contractor in a lie, a friend in a blatant betrayal, or a subordinate in a massive cover-up, don't go for the throat immediately unless you plan to end the relationship forever and bury the remains. Machiavelli warned that men take revenge for small injuries, but cannot for great ones. However, he also knew that a man who has nothing left to lose is the most dangerous enemy on the board. When you strip someone of their dignity, their job, and their reputation all at once, you aren't just winning. You're creating a lifelong ghost who will haunt your progress. You have turned a temporary opponent into a permanent saboteur. Think of a real-world scenario where you've finally gathered the evidence to prove a friend has been talking behind your back to ruin your reputation. You have the screenshots, the witnesses, and the perfect timing to blow their life up in front of everyone. The rush of power is addictive. You want to crush them. But if you humiliate them publicly, they have no choice but to go scorched earth on you. They will lie, they will flip the script, and they will spend every waking hour trying to find your skeleton in the closet. The strategic exit is to provide them with a golden bridge to retreat across. Instead of saying, "I caught you, you're a liar," you say, "I think there's been some serious miscommunication here, and maybe you were under a lot of pressure when you said those things." By giving them a way to save face, you aren't being nice. You are being cold-blooded and practical. You are allowing them to take the out you've provided so they can scurry away and leave you in peace. You get what you want. The behavior stops and you keep the upper hand. But they get to keep their ego intact. This is the remedy for the victory trap. In the streets, if you hem someone in so tightly that they feel they have no choice but to fight for their life, they will find a strength born of pure desperation that can bypass all your logic and preparation. A man with a way out runs. A man with no way out fights to the death. This applies to professional settings too. Imagine you're in a meeting and you've just proven your rival's data is completely fraudulent. Instead of calling them a fraud, you say, "It looks like there's a glitch in the software that generated these numbers. Why don't you take the afternoon to look into that and bring us the corrected version tomorrow?" You both know the truth. The room knows the truth. But by offering the software glitch excuse, you've given them a ladder to climb down from the ledge. They now owe you their professional life. You haven't just won the argument. You've gained a silent, terrified ally who knows you have the power to destroy them, but chose not to. The clever maneuver here is recognizing that mercy is a tool, not a feeling. You use it when it serves your long-term stability. Machiavelli noted that a prince should avoid being hated, and nothing breeds hatred faster than unnecessary humiliation. If you've won the point, take the win and close the book. Don't linger. Don't gloat. Don't demand a public apology that will only make them resent you more. The most Machiavellian move is to let the other person believe they got away with one, or that you were fooled by their excuse, all while you hold the real power in your pocket. You get the result, and they stay quiet. That is how you stay calm, by knowing that you've neutralized the threat without turning it into a ticking time bomb. At the end of the day, people pick fights because they want to see a reaction. They are starving for your attention, and anger is just a loud way of begging for it. They want to know they have the power to alter your pulse, to ruin your dinner, or to occupy your thoughts for the next 3 days. To be truly Machiavellian is to deny them that satisfaction entirely. It is a form of psychological cruelty to be so steady that your opponent begins to doubt their own existence. Machiavelli noted that the vulgar crowd is always taken by appearances. If you appear to be a fortress that cannot be breached, the crowd and your enemy will eventually stop throwing stones out of sheer exhaustion. You must realize that your peace of mind is your most valuable territory. Every time you lose your cool, you are giving away a piece of your land to a squatter. Why would you give a person you don't even like the deed to your mental health? The cruelty of being unshakable lies in the fact that it makes the attacker feel invisible. There is no greater insult to a bully or a manipulator than to show them that their best, most toxic war is only being fought by one person. When they realize they are shouting into a void, they lose all leverage. If you're tired of being the one who flinches when the heat turns up, it's time to stop playing the victim and start playing the architect. Strike the like button to signal that you've claimed your territory. Subscribe to the channel to arm yourself with more Machiavellian tactics for the modern world. Drop a comment below with the word unshakable if you're done letting small people occupy your mind for free. Don't just watch, rule. I'll see you in the next one.